Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the week ahead preview. All right, now it's a bit of a starting point for Monday. I would always go back into my major sort of analysis screens and look at exactly what happened. Now, US equity markets, markets sort of had a really great day. That's going to set the tone for Asian and European equities to start the week, right? And as you can see, that's where we closed. But then you come into what's happening right now on a daily basis. US equity futures having a really good another up day, and that's producing the perfect risk on profile. Euro, sterling, Aussie, Kiwi rallying, and the dollar pairs, the dollar index, Swiss, yen, and CAD, okay, where the US dollar is the base falling, right? It's pretty simple. And this is where trading becomes very easy and systematic. Now, as part of that risk on profile, though, what we're seeing is, and you'd have to sort of classify the cryptos in that risk space with, the say risk pairs like Aussie, Kiwi, CAD. They are enjoying the sunshine as well. Increased risk appetite on the equities, increased risk appetite across the board. The cryptos are rallying there as well. Commodities also enjoying the weaker dollar, right? And that's also going back towards, China's whole relief on the lockdown situation there. So that's where we are at the moment. It's very interesting to see like this very clear profile. It makes you very comfortable to start trading. Now, I don't do a lot of trading on Mondays, but when you are seeing a very clear as day, North American close up, US equity futures rallying, and the currencies behaving perfectly, crypto is also running with the same theme, you can feel very comfortable getting into the markets if you've got some levels to work with. Right. So now let's just have a look here. I mean, we are coming into the first week of the month, right? US non-farm payrolls on Friday. That's going to be the focus. We've got Bank of Canada rate decision there as well. But just having a look here at some of the news here, right? So don't forget, by the end of the month, all the good news is already out there. And this is what I think is happening with the dollar. And I'll show you this on the charts in a second. All the big heavy hitting numbers are out the first 2 weeks, right? We've had 2 weeks of no massive crazy US numbers to really scare the living daylights out of the Fed, right? So the dollar is just having a bit of a relief dip, right? I don't think the dollar trends over by any stretch. And if you look at the news, the Asia stocks swing to a 3-week high, dollar struggles, right? This is where the news services are struggling for stories. The eventual, like the traders, investors apparently are wagering eventual slowdown in the US monetary tightening. Yeah, right. As I said, there's been no major data for the last 2 weeks. So they're just trying to make up something to fit the story. So don't get too caught up in the whole news process. Now, let me just give you a look at the charts. This tells you the story, right? The dollar index, as I was talking about a week or so ago, broke down here, chance for it to fall. Euro also continuing to rally to the top side. You've got gold, okay, loving a weaker dollar as well, slowly climbing back to the top side. Oil sort of almost doing its own thing. It's just going up, right? Talk about the supply and demand issue. That's just a supply issue, right? So that's creating higher prices. Now, the good thing is for the markets, I think, well, the equity markets, you check out the S&P and the NASDAQ here, screaming to the top side through that resistance level, taking out a bunch of stop losses, right? These are everyone that's got short looking for that crazy big move to the downside, which I've been sort of saying is coming. But it's the cycle of data. First 2 weeks here, you get all the strong US numbers, say the Fed talking, and it's all about higher rates. Well, we haven't had that for a couple of weeks. So all of a sudden it loses momentum. Traders start second guessing themselves, and we start to see that squeeze to the top side in the equity markets. What it's going to do is it's going to reinvigorate the movements from here, right? We get stronger non-farm payrolls Friday. It's back on the picture. Fed coming up for rate hikes, June, July, could be bigger, could be worse. As I was saying, Bitcoin sort of enjoying that risk on profile as well. And you can see the bounce there in the commodities as well. Very clear to see the market going that way. Now, if I just flick over to the FX markets, once again, obviously the dollar index lower, dollar Swiss trading not perfectly with the dollar. Okay, dollar yen drifting lower as well. And you can see dollar CAD sort of drifting lower. Of course, oil rallying is going to help that movement as well. And on the downside here, euro, sterling, Aussie, Kiwi, as I said, really enjoying the sunshine. No big US numbers the last couple of weeks, and no real discussions. The Fed's off the radar, right? We're starting to hear a bit more from, well, the RBNZ raised rates by 0.5%. Euro, Christine Lagarde's talking higher rates. RBA, Bank of England won't be far behind. So we've got those profiles, but that's where we are. Now, you've got to really understand how this cycle of data sort of works. Because when you come back and start looking at the market, you're going, okay, this is great. The dollar's really falling here. Well, as I said, it's a process where we have had the big data the first 2 weeks. We've been starved of like oxygen on the dollar, and now we come into it, right? So the first big hitting numbers on Friday will be the non-farm payrolls, right? Huge for the next leg of the dollar move. Now, if the market is second guessing things, right? It's obviously, it's a shame that the non-farm payrolls are on Friday, because if we had on Wednesday, we'd have a couple of days of really good trading ahead of us, whereas you run out of time on the Friday before the weekend. So what are the Fed going to do? Well, I think it's already factored in 0.5%, June, July. If we get really strong non-farms, it puts more pressure on them. If we get weaker non-farms, it takes the pressure off them. And that's where the next dollar move will come from. Significant move, right? You got some ISM manufacturing numbers here. Well, the employment change, no big deal, but you've got a few US numbers there to think about. But the non-farms, definitely the focus. By the time we hit Wednesday, especially after the Bank of Canada rate decision here, meeting on Wednesday, what you will be, all the talk will be about the non-farm payrolls. But right now, on the face of it, I've just highlighted the really high impacting numbers, right? You've got some, it is a big week for Canada, or dollar CAD and the CAD crosses. You got some GDP numbers coming out on Tuesday. You've got the Bank of Canada obviously meeting, and that's the sort of big picture there. The only really massive thing I would be sort of eyeballing is the unemployment figures, the non-farm payrolls. Around that, well, there are other things sort of coming into play. You've got the inflation rate there, the flash numbers. These are early inflation numbers out of the Eurozone. Well worth a look. Eurozone unemployment there as well. Aussie GDP, I don't think it's really going to come into play, but keep an eye on it. It is usually a big number, but there's other bigger things happening at the moment. So it's a pretty organized week. Okay, you come into Wednesday is the first day of the month. As I said, Bank of Canada and the non-farm payrolls are your big ticket items. Around that, keep an eye on these other bits of data that are coming out, because they can impact. And if I drop this back to just 2 stars and above, you get a bit more of a bigger picture around what is coming out. And there's plenty, right? So don't get yourself all bent out of shape looking for all various things. There's so much data coming out, like second tier numbers, right? I was just focusing previously there on the top tier, top tier numbers. But as you can see, you come through like into Wednesday, there's so many numbers coming out of the UK, housing numbers. You've got retail sales figures out of Germany, unemployment rate, Christine Lagarde speaking, obviously important to the Eurozone. And you've got some Fed officials there talking Wednesday as well, probably trying to get their comments in before things heat up ahead of the non-farm payrolls. So it's a big week. Like the start of every week, every month, the first 2 weeks are usually the biggest as far as all the big numbers coming out. So make sure you're paying attention to those, because they are definitely important. And when you come down to the non-farm payrolls, make sure you know what you're looking at. There's a whole bunch of numbers coming out here at the same time. It's not an easy trading situation. What we're looking for overall is like, where does direction for the dollar go from here? So the best trade will be after it. You look at your charts at the moment, the dollar is going down. So does it continue down, or does it start going up again? Right. And that's what these non-farm payroll numbers will do for us. It's well worth waiting for. Outside of that, sure, try and pick things off. There's plenty of these currencies with, as I was saying, with specific levels to be looking at as well. If you go into the equity markets, right? As I said, a reinvigoration of levels here where these, like you can look at the stocks here going through a couple of levels, the FTSE just coming back to those previous highs, even the All Ords just busting up above previous levels. And then you got these really nice moves here, or like relief rallies, I'm calling them, because I don't think the dollar move is over. And when the Fed starts raising rates, equities will come off once again, but not right now. Volatility index, this is one of the key things. Market's very comfortable with everything that's happening at the moment, right? So make sure you are aware of that, because that's exactly what's happening. If you come into, and just to finish up on the charts, if you're looking for things here, you can see these movements here on the hourlies here on Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. A bit of a color change there on Ethereum. See on the big daily charts, it hasn't really come back yet, right? If anything, Bitcoin is coming back to that sort of key sort of pivot line there at current levels, but they haven't really recovered like you think they may have, right? So don't get caught up in short-term price action. It can be a bit of a misnomer around what's going on. So that's it, guys. It's pretty good, right? The start of a fresh month, what you should be doing is looking at your performance over the last month. Have a look where you lost cash, right? You want to try and remove the same sequence, right? You want to remove those trades, if you can, out of this month's trading. The good trades that you managed to make money on, have a look at those and see what they were associated with and see if you can match them up for this month, right? Plan your month, plan your trading. We've got some directional large numbers coming out this week. Keep an eye on these sentiment numbers, a good start to the week for Euro, business climate, economic sentiment, etc. That's an nice, easy roll into the week. But you know what? We'll have a bit more of an idea, when we come into Tuesday's trading, once all markets have reconnected. Right? That's a smarter, lower risk profile, instead of just rushing straight into the market going, you know what? I can see the markets here sort of, there's a risk on profile. I'm going to start buying Euro, Sterling, Aussie, Kiwi. Just remember that's been in play for the full Asian session. So as we come into Europe, it may swing around and change. Keep an eye on those US equity futures. It will give you the heads up to what's going on. But make sure you do analysis on all your instruments, whether it's equities, the currencies, commodities, or anything else for that matter, and the cryptos, right? The money's there. You just got to find out where to get in, where to get out, and that's how you're going to keep yourself going. All right, guys, have a good week. All the best. Cheerio.